Let's bring up our final storyteller of this fantastic slam, Jim O'Grady, everybody.
This is a nun story. Sister Margareta from Ireland was my 5th grade teacher at Annunciation Grammar School. She was 5 foot nothing, and that's what she feared, nothing. With a glaring exception, cats. It was the only phobia she ever revealed to us. And she was the only adult I had ever seen who stood still by balling up her fists and leaning forward like she was facing a typhoon. The typhoon was the 1960s. This story happens in the 1970s when she's in her 40s. But when she started her vocation before the 60s, generally speaking, American Catholics revered their priests and nuns. You would sooner kick Santa Claus in the nuts than question a priest or nun. But now the culture is changing, and Sister Margareta is having none of it. Perhaps you're familiar with nuns. She runs her classroom like a factory boss. You know, she churns out good little Catholics the way Detroit back then still produced boring but reliable sedans. One day, she says to us, she says, if the world was ending in 30 minutes, what would you do? Answer the question. Go to confession? Wrong. Comfort my parents? Wrong. Hide? Wrong. At every moment, you should be doing always what is most pleasing in the eyes of God. So if the world is ending in 30 minutes, you can keep on doing what you've been doing. And it was around this time that some of us started to think that maybe certain nuns were losing their minds. Because up till then, Catholicism in America thrived in these tight little urban immigrant communities. But when the immigrants had children, they moved to the suburbs. And they still sent their kids to Catholic school, but they also filled their houses with televisions that showed episodes of Three's Company and stereos that played disco and Led Zeppelin. And this was a fight that the priests and nuns would never win. So now Sister Margareta is entering her nunly prime, and she feels it slipping away. Even among her own people, she's losing her mystique. And one day, she catches Carla Adams in the back row reading a paperback novel. She grabs it out of her hand and shows it for all of us to see. And it's Love Story. And Carla is tall, so she stands out, and she's kind of gawky, so she gets picked on. And we watch her sort of shrink and try to disappear, but we can tell she's starting to cry. And Sister Margareta says, you just love the pants, don't you? I'll translate. Pants meant boys, because back then only boys wore pants, girls wore skirts. And she said, go ahead then, chase the pants, see where you end up. I'll tell you where you end up. In the lake of damnation. And it's ridiculous, but as little kids, it was hard for us to watch Carla's humiliation, and all we can do is what she does, sit there and take it. And then there comes one warm spring day when the windows are open in our first floor classroom, and Sister Margareta is writing on the blackboard when a cat jumps up on the sill. We see it. She doesn't. Peter Marconi stands up. And I will always love Peter Marconi for what he is about to do. I did not love him at the time because he was a dick. He had these huge white teeth and these mean little eyes, like he was in show business. And he was so cliche that he would actually rob you for your lunch money. But we all love him as he stands up, goes to the window, grabs the cat, starts walking towards Sister Margreta, who turns around, sees him, starts to yell, and freezes. And then Peter Marconi took the cat and threw it at Sister Margreta. And that image of the cat in midair, about to land on a nun, is one of my most cherished childhood memories. But as an adult, now, I can look back and I can actually feel a little sympathy for Sister Margreta because she made a deal with the Catholic Church. She said, I give you my life, my sex, and you give me a position of authority in a community that respects me. And now she was keeping up her end, but the Catholic Church, because of the 60s and the 70s, was letting down its end, and she's 40 years old. The most surprising thing, well, let me say this. Now she's also looking up to see this cat with its claws bared. And I've wondered, why was she so terrified of cats? Because cats do what they will. Cats do not obey. And she knew deep inside that all of us, her students, were cats. And that we would survive her and then scatter. And we would grow to have our own thoughts and commune with God on our own terms or not. And that some of us would even make it back into cities and find each other and fuck each other and fall in love and have little litters of children or not, because we were free to take advantage of that other great enemy of the Catholic Church besides disco, birth control. And really what was most surprising is that before the cat, remember the cat's up here? Before the cat reached her, she fainted. And I'll never forget standing over her and looking down at her hair. Her veil had fallen off when she hit the floor. And seeing her long, thick hair splayed across the floor. And feeling a little thrill and pity as I'm thinking to myself, she's a woman. Thank you.